Hi, I'm Charlie Collins, and this is the Donegal Sport Hub Donegal Daily Championship Podcast, brought to you in association with Kelly Centra, multi-award-winning store, Mountaintop Letterkenny, providing 24-hour service, 7 days a week. And many thanks to Kelly's at the Mountaintop here for their continued support with our podcast here for Donegal Daily, Donegal Sport Hub of the Michael Murphy Sports and Leisure Championships here in Donegal. And there's a special over in Kelly's this week as well. The AMPX Healthy Option Takeaway Meals are available, so take advantage of those if you possibly can. Okay, Gary McDaid is back, and as Alan Foley. Both had a good game last week, so we've kept them on the starting lineup. And we're going to look back over the championship matches fairly briefly. Look forward then, because round 3 was drawn last night, of course. Gary, the big one, of course, was O'Donnell Park. I spoke to personnel from both teams after the game. Both said they were disappointed with the result. Who, in your view, should have been the most disappointed?
Yeah, good question, Charlie. I suppose looking back at the game, Kilcar were really happy with the first half of the ball, and they came out at the start of the second half and they went 7 up, so they did, and were in control off the game at that stage. Probably won't be so happy with the way they finished the game, the last 20 minutes in particular, and probably only scoring 2 points in the second half. Union's in, flip it around, they'll not be happy with the first half performance, but suppose the way they clawed back in the second half and used the bench well, and I think the thing that helped them get back into the game is they kind of went into the game making sure they weren't going to lose the game the way that they were set up. Like, you had Peter Devine, who just sat on the 20-metre line for the whole of the first half, so he did to try and block off the goal area for Kilcar coming down the centre. In fairness, it did work, because the only time I can remember them coming down the centre was for the penalty when Ryan McHugh laid it off to Conor Doherty. That was the only time they did come down the centre. But then when you flip it around to the second half, then when they went with a more aggressive press up the pitch, I think it really worked for them. So it did, and they turned Kilcar over a number of times when Kilcar were coming out the back with their short kick out, because they were physically so strong, St Union, so they were, and probably had physically stronger men over the course of the 15 players over Kilcar, and that probably helped them that there. So, people are saying to me, after the game, geez, why did they not go like that for the whole game? So it probably is a good question. If anything, looking back in the game, it was probably a free shot for either team to don't be so cautious about losing the game. This is a free shot, because both teams, realistically, everyone knows are going to be there in the quarter final and going to be in the last 8. So they're and probably more likely are going to be in the top 4 as well. So it was kind of a free shot to trial it, because it wasn't a knockout game, and the way Union's finished the game, then I think they will learn a lot if they're to play Kilcar again down the line, say in a semi-final or so, that listen, our second half approach caused them serious bother when we went more aggressive and went with a high press on them to stop them running the ball out of the back, because they just turned them over with their physicality. Yeah.
Alan, we've talked about this in the past, and Union's not scoring enough when they meet the other big contenders. Was that the case again? 1-9 at home, it's not a great return. It was good enough to get them a draw, but as Gary said, maybe because Kilcar, for whatever reason, took their foot off the pedal and only scored 2 points in the second half.
Yeah, it's not a great return, but I think they're playing against one of the frontline teams here, so I think they still would have taken this at half time. Charlie, they were 6 down. They seemed to be kind of a bit all over the place in different aspects of the game. As Kevin Campbell was getting his kickouts quite easy, Sean Pattons weren't going as easy as expected. And then when Kilcar went 1 up at the start of the second half from Matthew McLean, that was 7. I really didn't see any hope for St Unions then, so I think even though they're probably a little bit disappointed having not won it in the end when they had the momentum, I still think it's something that they can probably use, because St Unions haven't really had a huge championship result really in about 3 years. I think they beat Neve Connell 2017. They haven't really clipped any of the bigger sides since then, so it's early days, and I actually thought it was just an enjoyable game. Two teams of pretty level standard, and it was good advertisement for Donegal football. I've seen worse.
Yeah, but if you go 7 points down against one of the other big contenders, you're not going to come back all the time, Alan. You're going to be in big trouble.
Yeah, I understand that too, and I thought the first half was real interesting, because Conor Morrison was him and McBurdy were having a great tussle, a couple of great blocks from Conor, but then Patrick walks off a 1-4. He got 2 from play at the end of the half. That really that was sort of the stage where you really would have worried about Unions, but it was well contested, and there was chances in the second half. Peter McAniff made a great block. I think it was one Conor Doherty fisted over. So
like Conor Doherty, I think was immense.
Yeah.
So he was the last night, and I think he's really developed into a proper senior player for the club this year. Like he's no longer maybe as one of the kids anymore, and the way he had took the 2 fisted points at the weekend when when he realised that the goal chance was gone.
Yeah,
he didn't do it once. Instead of going for the goal again, he got the point.
So that goal would have really finished it, but Gary, it went in.
It would have. But even going back to the Patrick McBurdy and Conor Morrison, that was worth admission fee alone. So it was. There might be too many of Donegal forwards speaking to Conor at the end of this championship. So there was, because he's been immense and he just takes no prisoners, and he's a fella I know well and coached him in the college in his time there, and he gives it everything on the field, so he does, and it doesn't care who the person is, if he knows them really well or not. He just goes after them time after time. And probably the only thing maybe through Unions we're kind of expecting Patrick to go inside, because I was watching it before the ball was thrown in. Conor was on the full back line, so he was, and Patrick went on the centre half forward, and Conor actually had to come out then, so they had to do a quick rejig, so they had, and Conor came out and picked him up. And to me, what worked well for Kilcar was Patrick and Stephen. They played kind of a triangle, Patrick and Stephen out in the half forward line with Matty McLean inside, and that triangle worked very well for them in the first half. And in fairness, Alan made the point there that he got 1-4. In fairness to Conor, probably the time he had a huge clash with Conor Park when the two of them, you could hear them bang, so you couldn't stand. Yeah. Patrick got his 2 points from play after that there, so he did. But I thought Patrick was immense as well. He caught a couple of brilliant kickouts in the second half when they were under pressure and they really needed him. And like looking at both keepers, I thought Kevin Campbell was so brave. So he was. I was so brave. I don't think I've seen guts like it in the way, because Unions were pressing high, and he had a couple just at the corner of the D. Now there was people calling that one of them were inside or two of them were inside, but he got away with it, and it had to be admired, his bravery, and that allowed them to set up attacks coming out from defence, because Unions were dropping off the first half, but it was more difficult, as I said, when they pressed up in the second half, and they did really well, Kilcar, on Sean Patton's kick out. Like, from my figures, I think they took 1/3 of Patton's kickouts, which would be unheard of in club football in Donegal. Like, and they're not exactly huge men over the field, Kilcar, and they got a lot of them long. So they did, because they managed to cut off the short for Patton, and then Ryan McHugh seemed to be always great positional sense. Get there for the breaking ball, and he picked up a good few breaking balls as well. Some of the other players, so it was an interesting battle.
There's got to stages in though, with maybe 10 or 15 to go, where they were just nearly playing possession game, and they were looking over their shoulders instead of bombing on, which is not really like them. It just kind of reminded me a wee bit of the day Donegal were 4 up in Tyrone in 2018, the Super 8, and then the Donegal got well caught that day in Balbafey, but
you got to push on, Alan. If you get too negative, the chances are you're going to be caught, and that's what happened Kilcar on Friday night. They got too negative and they got caught as a result of it.
I think with the way this championship is and all the teams in one group, and I think the group stage the last 5 or 6 years, people have realised you just have to push on regardless, whether you're winning or losing. The score difference is always might help you, so
we'll talk about this a little bit later on as you make that point. But having dropped a point and having looked at the other results this weekend, there is a chance, if these two teams don't win their last 2 matches now, that they could finish outside the top 4. And there's even a chance, if they won their last 2 matches, they'll still finish outside the top 4. And the significance I mentioned that is the top 4 will have home advantage in the quarterfinals. So that point drop by both of them could be very costly.
Well, something had to give, because not everybody could have predicted a draw last week.
Apart from yourself.
Thank you.
You got it. All right, okay, I'll mention Alan got all his predictions right at the weekend, so there it is.
The draw's been favourable to both of them this weekend, so it has. Like you would fancy them to be on 5 points after this weekend as well. So listen, unless they draw one of the other big hitters going into the last game,
there's 5 teams on 4 points at the moment, Gary.
Yeah,
there's 5 teams on 4 points, and these two are on 3 points. So there's a chance that even they won their last 2 matches, that there'll be 4 teams on 8 points ahead of them.
Well, the other 3, apart from Niamh Conlon, we don't want to leave them out for now, but the likes of St Michael's will feel they can beat our draw at home this weekend, and then you got Linfin playing McQuillan.
One of them's going to be on 6.
Both of them's on 4. So, all right, we'll leave that one. Let's move on. We're not going to spend too much time on the Gweedore and the Naomh Conaill games, because both of them won very comfortably, and we've talked enough about them and we know what they're like and all that sort of stuff. So let's look at some of the matches that were really close and maybe set us up for what we were talking about it there. Bundoran came to Termon. Gary, we were down at that one, very warm down there. Termon gave a very good account of themselves, I have to say, because at one stage it looked as if Bundoran would run away with it. But as Francie said to me afterwards, the Brennans made the difference.
Yeah, they were excellent, and Paul's going to be a huge loss, that card at the end. So he is going. Now, I had left the game just the last couple of minutes to try and catch the start of the Glenfin game afterwards, and I didn't actually see it. But from talking to people who are at the game, they said it's probably one that they'll appeal because it seemed to be harsh. But to me, the three boys inside were immense for them at the weekend. Jamie ended up with 1-6, Kane McAnuff ended up with 3 points, and Gary Clancy ended up with 4 points, 3 from play, and Kane's were all from play, and Jamie had 1-3 from play, I think. But to have 3 forwards scoring what they scored at the weekend, that's 113 they got from.
Clancy's return significant, because I saw them without him in Bundoran against St. Eunan's. He makes a difference. He's a class act.
Oh, he's a bag of tricks.
Yeah.
So he's showing the ball left, showing it right. He's throwing dummy souls left, dummy souls right. He can shoot it either side. So he is really, 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 really impressive. But probably I think Termon maybe missed a trick as well, because they conceded the kick out to them, so they did, and I think that nearly played into Bundoran's hands, especially in the first half, because they just got the ball from the back, and the likes of Paul Brennan, the likes of Peter McGonigal were physically so strong, breaking through the young Termon team, running down the pitch, and the ball, Charlie, was ending up time after time from their own kick out over the bar or in the back of the net, and they eventually pushed up, I think last 10, 12, 15 minutes on the kick out, and they actually won about 4 of them, so they did. So I know there's probably the fear that they were going to get caught if the ball went long on a 1v1 situation, but sometimes you have to weigh it up and balance it. I always recall when I was involved with the Glen myself in 2013 against Ballinderry, we actually conceded the kick out that day, so we did, and something that annoys me to this day, so it is, because I've never done it in a game since, because there's just too much hay to be got.
Yeah.
So there's when you push up. Yeah, you have to balance it. I mean, it outweighs the negative, I think, at the end of the day. I think Termon would have learned that as well. Now they're probably going to have to look at the Glenties this weekend as well. You know, I mean, if they concede the kick to them this weekend, they have the physical power to run steal and break through that young team.
Fairly unlucky with their away draws. Alan, the other 2 significant results on Saturday: Glenfin, very comfortable victory over St. Noel, 6 points as they had against Killybegs the week before. St. Michael's, I was at that game in Milford, and they won it in the last 10 minutes, mainly because Colin McFadden just showed that class is permanent. He kicked 1-9 and he kept going for scores. 2 big results for Glenfin and St. Michael's there.
Yeah, as we said, they're knocking on the door now, and they're looking. They could be in a serious position to stay weak, with 6 points. We spoke about Milford last week, and I didn't think that was the sort of game St. Michael's could go down and rattle up a big score and think about things like score difference or score average or whatever it is. Yeah. They just had to get out there with the 3 points just to back up their victory over Glenswilly, and that's what they did. As you said, Colm led the way, and Colm he seems in great shape, even from watching the week before.
Yeah.
And they dug it out, and I suppose TJ Evison was black-carded late in the game and kind of swung it this way, and I think Milford, the heads are down, as we spoke last week. They haven't actually won a game in 11 months now. The last time they won a game was this time last year after the second round. They beat Glenfin, and they were the first team through to the quarterfinals. Do you remember?
Yeah,
their last game in Glenfin, they were already through.
Yeah.
So I know there's been a lot of football, called off since that with COVID and stuff, but it's a long time. And
they had the one in that game on Saturday night. I think Colm and Christie, to maybe just a slightly lesser extent, because he really came into it in the last 15 minutes as well. And Martin McElhinney upped his game in that. But Milford were leading by a point or 2 points. And I was speaking to somebody from Milford, and they made a point to them. When you're 2 points up and you've got momentum, you've got to push on and won the game from there, not sit waiting for something to happen. And unfortunately, they sort of did that. And more so, they didn't push on enough, in my view, to really grab the game by the scruff of the neck and say, we're taking the points here. Yeah,
I think it's just down. I think that's down to experience, because other teams of their level, with different, they have guys who've with All Ireland medals in their pockets, that could probably just steer them through these sort of things. Well, Milford don't really have that, and
I think Milford that wasn't that game, but by all accounts, I think they'll take great heart from the weekend, as in the previous weekend where they were in Glenties, where they got beat out the gate. So they did. I mean, from listening to people, they brought huge aggression, huge physicality, and got stuck into them from the very start and played to the line. And in fairness, I heard Connie Doherty was very good. He just let the game flow, he did. And that's one thing. Speaking about referees, Connie Doherty, like from the 5 games I was at the weekend, I thought the standard officiating was very, very good. So it was. The referees now, they were coming under a bit of abuse now in the game, but for me it was unwarranted. So it was, and they certainly held their own in the middle. So they did. So it's I think
as we know, Gary, you can't please everybody all the time. Glenfin backed up that victory in Killybegs. It was interesting. St Knowles had the victory against Donegal, and we wondered could Glenfin come back, and they did it. And again, from what I hear, Chris was at that game, and you were at it. Very comfortable.
The scoreboard probably didn't reflect. They were easy, comfortable. They were cruising. I think there were 9 points up at one stage in the game. You had half time was 1-9-3, so it was and they were cruising. And Jared Ward, he just gave an exhibition again, 2 weeks running.
Absolutely.
So he did. He was superb. He had 110, so he did 1-4 from play. He had 110 out of 114 and 1-4 from play. And his goal, the ball, he kind of lost control of the ball, so he did. But instead of panicking, he actually let the ball bounce, and then he flicked it with the outside of his foot into the net. And I was just like, whoa, I can't remember who passed him the ball now, but I remember whoever was about to pass the ball, and he shouted him, "No, wait." Because he knew the pass wasn't going to get to him, and then he shouted no. So he did, and when the ball, he's just so intelligent with, and he's been unbelievable 2 weeks running. So he has, if the Sheamus McGeady was to be handed out now after 2 weeks, he's up there as a front runner. But probably looking at it, Charlie, St Knowles have. Brendan McCole in their ranks, the Donegal full-back on many occasion and cornerback, and if not in the starting 6 defenders, first saw a ball so he's up there. They didn't actually put him on Jared Ward in the first half. I was shocked. They went with one of the cornerbacks on him, and they eventually changed it then at half time and put Brendan McCole on. The damage was done. But in fairness to Jared Ward, even though Brendan McCole was on him, he still had 2 unbelievable scores from play. Not alone him, I thought Ross Marley was brilliant again. Outstanding energy coming up the line from wing forward. Stephen Carr in midfield. That's 2 weeks running. Those 2 names have come up. I thought John Harkin in defence, the full back, brilliant. He led shores up the back, gets the ball and attacks up the pitch, and he's real aggression, and he takes no prisoners. I think a couple of weeks ago against Unions as well. It was on young Porrig McGettigan, and Porrig, it was probably one of his first appearances for Unions. He learned from the likes of John Harkin, because he takes no prisoners on the pitch, so he does.
Important points then for Glenfin and for St Michael's, put them on to 4 points. Alan, I was in Donegal. McCool's scraped it just about, got a vital score, a goal at a very vital time, but Donegal then charged at the end and got 4 points. I think that brought them back into the game. But McCool's a 4 out of 4, which is a good situation to be in. Sometimes it doesn't matter. Come through 2 tight games. So them and Glenfin, we'll talk about it a little later on. That's going to be a cracker. But they're in a good situation now, McCool's.
They are, and as I said, they kind of scraped through the week before against our drive by just a point, and then to go to Donegal can be awkward. As you said, even Donegal have lost 2 games, have gone down fighting them both. They're not far off, having 4 points themselves, so it just proves how thin the margins are. So I think we've spoken a few times, there is an opportunity for teams to jump into those positions, maybe 6, 7 and 8 behind the big 4 and maybe St Michael's. So there's a bit of a scrap developing there. And the draw, as you said, the draw has been very unkind to certain teams, and then other teams then have been able to take advantage of it.
Glen Swally got through against Four-Masters, as they had to do, Gary, to give themselves any chance. Again, 4-point victory. Was it convincing, non-convincing? What did you think?
The boys were probably the majority of the game. There was a 6-point margin between both teams, and there was a key point, I think, between the 7th and 18th minute. We managed to hit 5 points in a row on the scoreboard, and it made it too difficult for Four-Masters to claw that back. So it did, because every time they would get 1 or 2, we would respond with 1 or 2, and they couldn't get a rally of scores together. in fairness to Four Masters, they brought huge fight against Gweedore, and they did again this week. And I actually said last week they went right up until the last quarter against Gweedore, but this week they finished the game out strong. I think they'll take huge heart from the game. So there were immense energy. I thought Jamie Crawford was brilliant, as good a game as I've ever seen him play. 1-2 from wing forward. I thought Kevin McBurdy was excellent in the middle. I think it was 5 points he ended up with.
Yeah.
I know he missed the penalty, and it was probably a huge turning point in the game. I think it was a 52nd minute marked down, and that would have put it a 2-point game, and they were really going after the Glen at that stage. But in fairness to the Glen, they managed to grind it out and see it over the line. Murphy was good, involved in a lot of frees and 45s, and involved in setting up the goals as well, and floated about the pitch. So we did between midfield and half forward and full forward. So we did. Keelan Dunleavy was going well inside. Cormac Callan, I thought was brilliant, got on a side of ball, and Cian Randall's had a good game for his championship debut in goals as well. So we did. It was not easy for a young lad going in there, but it was probably the Glen probably looked at last week and said we need to change it up, and they give him the shout this week in goals, and so they definitely did better in the kick out than the previous week, which helped. You need to get primary possession, and that helped them to get the one.
Yeah. Okay, the situation after 2 series of matches, Niamh Connell, Gweedore, Glenfin, St Michael's and McCool's all on 4 points. Kilcarran, St Eunan's on 3. Then we have Glenswally, Bundoran and St Noel's on 2. And 6 teams still pointless. Dunlow, Ardra, Four Masters, Killybegs, Milford and Termon. Those 6 teams without a point to their name so far as we enter this third stage of matches next weekend. We're going to be looking at them when we come back after this short break.
Get your car free at DMG. It's as simple as 1, 2, 3. 1, buy a used car at DMG. 2, like us on Facebook. 3, tag your friends on Facebook.
And you're welcome back here to our podcast, sponsored by Kelly Centre at the Mountain Top. Their specials this week, the AMPX Takeaway Healthy Option Meals. If you want to take advantage of those at Kelly's at the Mountain Top, we'd love for you to do that. Let's move on then from Stage 2 to Stage 3. The draw was made yesterday evening in Glenswally. Some very interesting games thrown up there. There's some fairly straightforward ones, Alan. if you want to look at what's happened so far and what you think might happen, I'm going to say Niamh Connell against Termon, Bundoran against Milford, St Michael's against Ardra, St Eunice against Killybegs, Kilcara against Glenswilly. You'd expect the teams that are up near the top of the table to continue winning those games. There's a couple of blockbusters there. The one that jumps out is McCool's versus Glenfin, and Bundoran against Milford is a key one, I think, because Bundoran need to win that now that they've won away. They need to win that home game to get 4. So let's just briefly look at the other ones. 4 Masters Dunlow without a point either. Somebody's going to have to step up there. Niamh Connell, Termon gets it underway on Friday night. Straightforward again.
You think so? Yeah, the draw has been very unkind to Termon. I suppose these sort of teams that have lost or struggled in the first couple of games, they would have looked really for a team of obviously their own standard. I think the 2 reasons, basically, it's a 4-pointer for them.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Where now they're going to go to Davy Brennan Park.
Yeah.
They'll do very well.
The only obvious 4-pointer here is 4 Masters against Dunlow in terms of teams at the bottom.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So they're going to lose ground as well, while one of their rivals is going to get another 2 on the board. So Niamh Connell are just cruising at the minute. I was in Ardra on Sunday. They won 18 points to 5 with Owen McGettigan. Probably the star of the show. He scored 8 points, 6 from play. There was a mark and a free towards the end, but they were so comfortable. They were 7-0 up before Ardra even had a shot for a point, which went wide actually. And then Gareth Conker scored towards the end of the first half. Stephen Boyle scored as well. Ardra did fashion a goal chance halfway through the half, but Stephen McGrath saved well from Boyle. So they were just in complete cruise control, and then you see the likes of Kieran Brennan back coming off them as well. So
Leo didn't play.
Leo didn't play. Brennan didn't play.
Kieran Gallagher didn't play.
Yeah. So
and on the Glenties thing, like, to me, it's not just, this is not luck. This is pure hard work. It's coming from, like, and I talked last week about their management team, about how good they are on the sideline, but it's the work they do away from the pitch. Like, at the 5 games I was at the weekend, I saw Martin Regan at most of them, and if it wasn't Martin I saw one of his management team or somebody from the Glenties panel. I can't say I saw the same from every other club. In fact, I saw very few other management teams from other clubs. So that's just pure hard work, and they have set the standard now in Donegal over the last 12 months. So and to me, now, I didn't see them the weekend. I saw them the first day against Mulford, and they were just immense. And I'm sure you would agree that they were immense again on this weekend past.
Yeah, they weren't probably as ruthless. They were quite wasteful, but they still cruised through the game. Like, I think what they'll do to Termon is what they did to Milford. They'll try and win this game in 10 minutes, basically, to just put it to bed.
Get it over early.
You know, they're not having any serious bothers. They're not losing players to injury. Yeah. You know, they're not getting involved in any silly stuff.
No.
So I think they'll just try and lay down the marker as soon as possible. So by Friday night, you would expect to be in a seriously good position.
In the quarterfinals.
And almost guaranteed, I'd say, a home quarterfinal.
Saturday we've got 4 Masters Dunlow. All we can say about that is both teams need to win that game to go on to 2 points, because both of them now are thinking about getting out of the relegation situation rather than being stuck in the bottom 4. Gweedore go to St Knolls. Gary, you can't expect anything but a Gweedore victory there. Like Niamh Connell, they've been fairly, I know against 4 Masters it took them a while to get going, but against Killybegs they really put up a big score there.
Yeah.
So you'd expect them to win that. And the big game on Saturday is McCool's against Glenfin. This is a cracker, big local derby, near neighbours, both on 4 points. And we'd have to say, maybe without jumping the gun too far, the winners of that will be in the quarterfinals. Gary?
Yeah, and like, to think that one of the teams pre-championship, if you were told that they're going to be in 6 points, I'm sure they'd have bit your hand off or wouldn't believe you, and most people wouldn't have believed you. And the draw has been favourable to them as well, as teams of their own standard. They haven't had any of the big 4, so they haven't in the draws. But McCool's at the weekend now, by all accounts, it wasn't at the game, but it was a 3-point game in the end, but I think they were more comfortable than that throughout the game, and from listening to bits on the radio and from talking to people that were at the game, and they seem to be in control at the minute, and they're very much in charge of their own destiny. And like a derby, they played each other in the league, so they did it already, and McCool's won it by 4 that night. And you would think McCool's will get they won't give Jared Ward the space that he got maybe against St Knowles at the weekend. I think it's going to be, and there's a derby, like, and there's no love lost between the two teams. It's in McCool Park as well. Glenfin will bring it, so I think they'll bring great edge. They've brought great edge to all their games so far, as will McCool's, and I think home advantage. I will give the slight nod on home advantage to McCool's.
Okay, Alan, quickly.
I'm going to just go for Glenfin.
Good man.
Again, I don't think there's much in it, but I think that it's kind of like a free goal for them, because I know the draw could take them anywhere week 4, but they have a home game week 4 as well. So
not as much pressure.
No, and as I said, I think with the top 5, they're probably the next best team at the minute. McCool's might have something to say about that, but I think it's a great situation.
I've
for
seen
both.
the two of them, Glenfin and Killybegs and McCool's yesterday. I just give Glenfin the edge, just about the edge, because their championship record is fantastic. Anyway, we'll move on to Sunday. St Michael's, again, we talk about them every year, talk to Christy about it, championship and all that sort of thing. They've done enough to get 4 points out of 4, Gary. You can't complain about that. And against Ardry, you'd expect to make a 6 out of 6.
Yeah, definitely. And they played without Michael Langan at the weekend, which was probably huge for them, and they probably thought they would have got through the game more comfortably than they did. And it's probably really good now that they didn't have to use him, and maybe it would hurt them down the line, because looking at the fixture this weekend again, you would think if Langan is anywhere near, well, why rush him? We should have enough to get through here this weekend. And I was actually working out, that'll put them on 6 points, and why even rush him in a last game then? Let him rest to the quarterfinals. So and that would actually give him 4 weeks, Charlie, since he picked up the injury. So it would. Yeah. So you would like to think that would be massive for him to have him back for the quarterfinal. 6 points could be enough to get you a home quarterfinal, and you'd imagine their score difference would be pretty healthy this weekend. Going into Ardra, as Alan said, they struggled to score against Glenties at the weekend, so you'd favour St Michael's definitely.
Bundoran got back on the road with that determinant victory. You'd expect them to beat Milford. Milford have been very unlucky with the draws as well, but after the disappointment of being so close against St Michael's and going to a side that showed a lot of energy against Termon, home victory there, Alan? I
think a home victory, but I think Milford will give them a go. As I said, Milford can draw on some positives from the St Michael's game, the majority of the game anyway. Charlie, you spoke to Alan Russell. Bundoran, another club that really want to bring this to the next level as well. Yeah. And they put up the big score at the weekend in Termon, and it's an awkward place to go, but I could see them putting themselves in a decent position, because I think they'll know this is a winnable game, and they need to basically get up to those 4 points, because they'll be on the road for week 4. Yeah,
they were vulnerable at the back in those at the weekend. Termon opened them time after time for goals.
They're exciting going forward, but they do have issues.
Yeah, I don't know if Milford had people at the game or not, but they would certainly take heart from that there, that no, unless there's possibly goals here, because Bundoran are such an attacking team, they do leave gaps at the back and give you that opportunity. As you can see, Termon scored 2-12 against them. Yeah.
Kilcar versus Glenswally, Killybegs versus St Eunans. We touched on it earlier on. Kilcar and St Eunans have dropped points to finish in the top 4, where they both want to finish, Gary. They're going to have to win those 2 matches, and in Eunan's case they're going to have to win it comfortably, because they're a wee bit behind on scoring difference. They just have a scoring difference of +7, whereas the teams ahead of them, McCool's are ahead of them and Glenfin are ahead of them, not that far. And McCool's are actually behind them in terms of points scored, but St Eunans and Kilcar need to win those 2 matches.
Yeah, and you're on about score difference there, and Eunans are going to be down Nile at all, so they are this way. Now I'm sure they'll appeal that red card situation, because they seem very aggrieved at it at the end, the way they were talking to the referee. So I'll say you'll see an appeal, so you might expect to see him playing this again. If they don't have him, they're probably going to be definitely struggling for the scoring power that Nile brings to the team. Big Huey didn't play last game. Seamus Og was out with hamstring as well. He went off against Glenfin.
And 3 goalkeepers in 2 games as well.
3 goalkeepers in 2 games as well. But you would think that Huey would probably look at the thing, and there's probably no point rushing hammer Seamus Og back this week. You know what I mean? They may as well hope for a favourable draw in the last round to get themselves 2 points. Most people are tipping them for a quarter-final top 8. Now they're looking to avoid relegation.
Well, last game's going to be away from home as well, Gary.
Yeah, exactly. And then the Glen and Kilcar, might be a day out for our boys. We'll go over and look at the scenery over in Muckross Head, or maybe a Sleeve League. So we will, because
We'll just go at all.
I don't know that Kilcar will be in bad humour, I'm thinking, after the second half performance, and
doubt so.
you don't want to be approaching a Kilcar team who's in bad humour and has a point to prove at the weekend. The only thing I'll say, that'll stand favour to the Glen is that last year Four Masters came into the Glen and beat us comfortably in the Glen, and our team probably needed changing. Porry Boner deserves huge credit for that. A lot of the old guard have moved on and retired, and maybe the legs certainly weren't there last year when Four Masters came into the Glen. I thought we had good energy and good legs about the team on Sunday evening, and
you needed it in
the
Townie.
Glen, when by God Will needed it.
I think
Townie.
if St Eunan's are looking for a top four, they're going to have to get the 7 points basically, because the score difference or average isn't going to get them there. I even think from a Glenswilly point of view, there might be a slight chance one team will get through in 8th place with 4 points.
Possibly.
So
I agree.
Kilcara could get the run on Glenswilly, so even if they're 5 or 6 points down, I think they need to just keep it in their heads going, if we can keep this somewhere respectable, we could have a chance in the last game here.
Well,
so.
I've been accused of sitting on the fence by several people have got on to me. Why do you keep sitting on the fence up there during that podcast? So I'm going to put my neck out here now. I've done up a table post matches at the weekend, and here it is for you now. Neath Connell, Gweedore, Glenfin and St Michael's on 6 points. Kilcar and St Eunan's on 5 points. McCool's and Bundoran on 4 points. Glenswilly, St Knowles and Four Masters on 2 points. Donegal, Ardra, Killybegs, Milford and Termon, no points.
Many's that in 0?
5.
5.
Yeah, so...
Yep. So you have 4 on 6 points, 2 and 5 points, 2 and 4 points, and 3 and 2 points. And I'm going to predict that Neath Connell, Gweedore, Glenfin, St Michael's, Kilcar and St Eunan's will be in the quarterfinals, and the other, is it 2 places? Maybe 1 place, is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The other 2 places, McCool's, Bundoran and Glenswilly, possibly could come into the equation in the last series of matches.
Yeah, as long as they don't draw Glenties or someone.
Exactly.
I think that St Michael's will have a big say in this championship, because I think they're the best. With the St Eunan's and Kilcar being in draws, St Michael's could
get a home quarterfinal.
Yeah, and
Could get a
Kilfanny
home
would be a
quarterfinal.
very, very awkward quarterfinal
Absolutely.
for anyone.
Yeah,
Anyway,
and
we'll keep a record of that for next week, in case I get anything wrong. Right, we're going to take another short break. Rejoin us for action and reaction from the Intermediate Championship.
Get your car free at DMG. It's as simple as 1, 2, 3. 1, buy a used car at DMG. 2, like us on Facebook. 3, tag your friends on Facebook.
I'm closing within touching distance in a moment. Within touching distance in a moment.
So welcome back, and many thanks again to Kelly Centre at the Mountaintop for their support. They're special, just to remind you again, this week is the AMPX Takeaway Healthy Option Meals, and we appreciate their support with our podcast on the championship, the Michael Murphy Sports and Leisure Championships here in Donegal. Intermediate Championship, looking at the table, Nívora, Buncrana and A Rua, who all won at the weekend, are on 4 points. Niamh Columba and Cloughaneely are on 3, Fannet Gales, Malin and Niamh Columkill on 2, and then there's 4 teams who have yet to actually get a point. Nívora and Buncrana at the top of the table. Is that a bit of a surprise, Gary?
Yeah, definitely. Like, no one would have expected Nívora to be up there. There were probably people were expecting them to be the lower end of the table and probably fighting relegation, but they've had an immense start, so they had, and be really, really happy with where they are. Buncrana coming up from junior as well. Probably most people think they shouldn't have been down in junior, but huge for them to give them huge confidence.
Buncrana going to Red Hughes and winning.
Yeah.
Going to Red Hughes and won comfortably.
Yeah,
7,
I know. Yeah. Red Hughes would be deeply disappointed with the start to the championship. So
they're in a bit of bother, aren't they? They're in a bit of bother. You were at the big game in Fulcara, Cloughaneely against Niamh Columba. Neither of them wanted to win it, Alan, did they?
Yeah, it was interesting. Like at the end of the game, a little bit like O'Donnell Park, both parties were really annoyed with the draw. Cloughaneely were 7 points up in the first half at one stage.
Yeah.
Niamh Columba were 4 points up, with 3 minutes to play. So
that's a 10 or 11 point turnaround at one stage.
Yeah. But I thought it was great entertainment, and I thought it was probably unfair on either side to lose. Like Paul Sweeney had scored 2 goals against Fannet Gales the week before for Cloughaneely. He had 2 goals in the first quarter. Aaron Doherty scored a hat-trick of goals, 3-2, 2 goals from penalties. It kind of reminded me if you watch Premier League football in England. Do you know, when you watch the championship, sometimes it's way more competitive. Do you know what I mean? The standard might be a little bit less, but like those better sides in the intermediate championship wouldn't be far off some of the lower sides in the senior championship, and the standard is good. And like the whole way through the championship last year, the likes of Cloughaneely and St Nolls especially, you know, there was some real close games.
Yeah, and A Rua Cloughaneely games were cracker games last year.
Yeah,
as well.
like and A Rua and another team's going to have a serious say here, because Cloughaneely have to play Niamh Bridge and
they're down in A Rua this weekend.
That's right, yeah. So maybe that's why they were disappointed then. Like you would still expect them both to get into the top 8, but I suppose you're looking at home quarterfinals here too, is it? You want to get your...
I'm not sure, does that apply in the intermediate championship? It probably does, It probably does. Just looking at some of the other results, Niamh Bridge beaten at home there by A Rua. I mean, Niamh Bridge last year were really up there contesting, Gary, but A Rua were too strong for them. Malin bounced back from their defeat the previous week and a big victory over Niamh Columkill, and Fannet Gales likewise, after the disappointment of losing to Niamh Columba, went down and had a big victory over Burt. So the teams that you expect to be in the top 8 are basically working their way there. There's no big surprises there, really, is there?
No.
But when I say that, I mean Buncrana and Nívora at the top is a bit of a surprise, but the other guys are tucked in behind them. Intermediate Championship, Alan, we said this so often last year, there's so little between 5 or 6 of them teams that to pick a winner out of it's virtually impossible. And as you say, and I think I said this to a couple of the guys during the regional games, it won't really start taking real shape till we see the last 8 and what the quarter-final draw is.
Yeah, I thought you were going to ask me to pick a winner there at one stage, but
no, I won't. No. Too early.
I think there's like the likes of A Rua, Cloughaneely, Niamh Columba, there's absolutely nothing there, and the draw could, you know, you might have 1 or 2 sneaking into the last 8, so if you're playing them, you know, you have probably a better chance getting through, but I would not really want to be picking too early.
No, we won't pick. Just to run through the fixtures for this weekend, it's Nívora against Niamh Columkill. That's on Friday night. Then on Saturday night, it's Buncrana against Niamh Ulton. Buncrana should make it 3 in a row there. The other 4 matches are all on Sunday at 3 o'clock. Red Hughes against Malin. It's a must-win that for Red Hughes. If they want to have any chance of making the quarterfinals, they just have to win that game. A Rua against Cloughaneely looks like the big one. Niamh Columba against Fannet Gales, not far behind. And Niamh Bridge against Burt. Sides pointers at the bottom. one of those sides, both those sides badly need the points. So that's the situation in the Intermediate Championship. As we keep saying here, and I know that sometimes people might think you're overstating it, but the Intermediate Championship will be so close right the way to the wire. We're going to take another break and come back and look at the junior situation and the Donegal Ladies Championship as well.
Can't deny this feeling. I know I got gold within grasp. I believe I'm closing within touching distance. In a moment, in a moment, in a moment, in a moment, in a
Get your car free at DMG. It's as simple as 1, 2, 3. 1, buy a used car at DMG. 2, like us on Facebook. 3, tag your friends on Facebook.
I know I got gold within grasp. I believe I'm closing within touching distance in a moment. Within touching distance in a moment.
Okay, welcome back once again to the final part of this podcast, brought to you in association with Kelly Centre here at the Mountain Top. Thanks to them again for their support. The AMPX healthy meal options are available this week in Kelly's at the Mountain Top. The Michael Murphy Championships continue this weekend, of course, and in the Junior Championship, Downing's 11-14, Robert Emmett's 7 points. We don't see scores like that very often. I had to look at it twice, and it's in some ways it's sad to see a score like that, Gary. You don't want to see that, you know. I was talking to somebody yesterday down in Dunlow, and they said Robert Emmett's are in a bit of trouble at the moment, so hopefully they'll get themselves out of that, but a result like that doesn't do any good.
I actually heard a report from Robert Emmons. Who did they play the week before in the championship? I can't recall. They lost the game, but didn't lose it by much. And I heard they put in a very good display and good performance. And whatever report I was listening to at the time, it said hopefully they're on their way back. But by God, that'll not help them. So it won't. And you know, like credit to Downings to rattle up a score like that there in championship football. It's unheard of.
Good one for Downings, because they drew their first game, and good one for Convoy down in Urus, won 10 to 11 points. That was a big result for them, because Urus is a difficult place to go, Alan.
Yeah, again, like this is another very close championship, and the initial one teams, it's always hard to go down to the likes of Urus, so to get that there result will stand them in good stead.
The other two results showed how difficult it is to win in the show, because Moville beat Narasa 2-9 to 6, and Carndonna beat Muffin in the Shown Derby 1-14 to 10 points. So Moville and Convoy are at the top of the table on 4 points. Downings with 3, Urus with 2, Carndonna with 2, and Letterkenny Gales, who've only played 1, have 1 point as well. The rest have no points at the moment. But This is another situation where the top eight's going to get into the quarterfinals, and I keep repeating this. The real championship will start then. There's a bit of sparring going on at the moment.
Absolutely, yeah. Just to go back to that Carndonagh score, they had Conor O'Donnell, who's had his injury woes. He was there and kicked 9 points on Friday night, so that's great for them as well.
Had 6 the week before, I think.
Yeah,
Great to see him back. He's a talent.
I worked with him for 2 years with the 20s, and he's just such a powerful runner with the ball. Like, he'll be a real asset to Donegal when he gets back playing, and obviously Carndonagh will be hoping that he can be the man to lead them out of Division 4 very soon.
The fixtures for this week: Narossa versus Downings, Robert Emmets against Letterkenny Gales, Muff against Urus, and Convoy against Petticoat. You'd expect the obvious ones to win that, maybe Downings, Letterkenny Gales, Urus and Convoy to get the points, but as I say, we won't really know until the quarterfinals get underway here.
Yeah, hopefully we get that far, just with a few of the cases now in the county. So I suppose we can only take it week on week. But as you said, even in the intermediate championship, Charlie, there I see you took the note, like those 4 away wins. That junior championship this coming weekend, you're looking possibly 3 out of 4 away wins. So
yeah, there was a lot of success away from home in both the senior and the intermediate championship this year, this week, which is. Sometimes we look at that as a bit of a surprise. Anyway, we'll move on now to the ladies. The Donegal Centra Senior Ladies Championship here in Donegal, and the big teams won at the weekend. Termon and Glenfin recorded victories, and rather than spend too much time on that, we'll jump ahead because they meet at the Burn Road next Sunday. Again, the top 4 in the senior are going to qualify for the semi-finals, but a marker can very much be put down, Alan, with Termon and Glenfin next weekend. Yeah,
the two of them have been sparring at the upper end of the championship here locally. Termon have wrestled it back in recent times, so you would expect them probably to continue in that vein. As you said, they're meeting now on Sunday morning at the Burn Road, so it's a big chance for Termon to maybe show who's boss, they will feel.
Yeah. Termon ladies, Gary, they just keep doing it. I know Sean Leeson's back last year managing them, and they had a little bit of a lull where Moville were coming in there and Glenfin obviously were coming in, but they seem to have got the bit between their teeth. And I heard Chris talking about it, saying that several players have come back now and made themselves available. It's incredible how long they've kept this success going for.
Yeah, and listen, probably the COVID has helped many teams get players back, so they have, but probably they've been one of the main benefactors, so they have. And listen, I suppose they all look up to Geraldine McLaughlin out there, and it's nearly like having Michael Murphy on the men's game. She's the big star in the women's team, and everyone wants to play with her, so you can see what the reason why they're all coming out. And listen, they're going to be the team to beat this year.
Yeah. Okay, just look at the other results in the intermediate championship. In the green group, there was wins for Milford and St Eunan's. Chris McNulty attended that game, very impressed with the St Eunan's team there. In the yellow group in the intermediate, the winners were Ardra, Fanet Gales and St Knolls. In Junior A, Glen Swilly, Robert Emmets and Downings had the victories, while in Junior B there was just one game there, and Red Hughes beat Burt. So there's action on Wednesday night actually in the Ladies Championship, but next Sunday, as we said, the real big clash is Termon against Glenfin at the Burn Road, and the ladies games all throw in at 10:30 on a Sunday morning. Just to finally mention Hurling Championship, there was a bit of a lull this week. Next week it's Burt against St Eunan's, Setanta against McCool's. So the leaders Buncrana have a night off, and the other teams, Setanta are closest to them. A victory over McCool's will guarantee them a semi-final spot. It looks as if it's between those two, Alan. No disrespect, Burt seem to be gone at this stage. St Eunan's and McCool's have got a victory, but maybe not enough. Setanta and Buncrana, the teams for the final, perhaps?
You'd expect someone current form, I suppose, as we kind of mentioned last week. It's they might be considered the new upstarts in Buncrana, but they're going to have to soon enough come across a very established force here. So it's taking shape, and as we said before too, it's good for hurling because it's not just the 2-horse race that it was for so long.
Yeah.
All those teams now, Buncrana will want to join the party, but they've all reached finals in recent years.
Okay. Right, final question, Gary. We talked about the big 4 before the championship got underway. Are we still talking about the big 4, or is there a big 2 and then 2 behind that and then 4 behind that? Or what way do you see it now, halfway through this series of 4 matches?
I think Glenties are number one, so they are. And I think Kilcar and St Eunan's are a 2-3 either way. You can flip it around. I don't think there's nothing between both teams. Gweedore probably in at 4.
Gweedore down at 4?
I just think the Michael Boyle thing will really be noticeable.
No, I'd have them 2. I think
it'll really be noticeable when they play one of the big guns.
Okay,
so they're getting away with. They'll get away with it at the moment because they have unbelievable players.
Yeah.
So they have, and your talent will carry you so far. So it will. But I think I would have the other 3 ahead of them. So I would. Outside of that, then I would have Bundoran there. So they would, because I think they looked excellent at the weekend. St Michael's out of them. St Michael's probably 5 and Bundoran at 6, and like it's there's a group then of McCool's and Glenfin and the Glen and that, and teams like you mentioned that'll be fighting for those last 2 spots, and like McCool's and Glenfin are probably the teams that are in pole position to get them at the minute.
Alan, you'd push Gweedore up into 2 behind Niamh Conall at this stage, would you?
Yeah, I would. I think just the squads they have are the best 2 squads. I just think I actually kind of fancied last year in the county final series Niamh Conall. I just think they were so well drilled in that, and I think as Gary said, that they haven't taken the foot off the gas at all. Like they're out, watching every game going. So I definitely have that at 1. I actually would have Gweedore 2, Kilcar 3, Eunan's 4.
Okay. I'm getting back on the fence on that one. Up good and high. Thanks to Tommy here at Full Tilt Studios for again looking after us. Thanks to Kelly Centre at the Mountaintop for their support. And we'll be back to look back over Series 3 next week and look forward to Series 4 when everything will be decided the following week in terms of who will be in the quarterfinals of the respective championships. Thanks for joining us. Join us again next week.
The Donegal Sport Hub Donegal Daily Championship Podcast. Brought to you in association with Kelly Centra, multi-award-winning store, Mountaintop Letterkenny, providing 24-hour service 7 days a week.